greatest late bloomer quarterbacks in NFL history since 1980. That was a terrible intro. Let me just get to the video, bro. I'm just a viewer today. I don't want to watch.
There are really just 4 types of quarterbacks. Young quarterbacks who are on their rookie contracts.
And then you got goats like Herbert.
Franchise quarterbacks who are typically considered to be in the top 10 and are paid handsomely for it. Bridge quarterbacks who are typically
You know what? Shall we rank these quarterbacks right fast? NFL QB tier list. Nah, we'll do that later. We're gonna do that later. We're gonna do it off of this though. Herbert ain't no fucking bridge quarterback.
Journeymen, placeholder starters, or veterans for younger players. And they're not typically great long-term options as the starter. They typically move from team to team. And lastly, backups. Guys who are meant to be holding clipboards on
Yo, get that dog off my screen and don't bring him back.
Sundays, but are capable enough to step in and cover for the starter in brief spurts. Now, there is some nuance here. Sometimes guys are paid franchise quarterback money, and they shouldn't
be. Same thing.
Tua. And the lines between bridge quarterback and backup can be a little blurred. However, these basic 4 types of quarterbacks are the standard. Removing the true backups and looking at the starting level guys, bridge quarterbacks are the least sexy pick. They are often seen as having the least amount of upside, and usually teams turn to them only because they didn't have a better option, and they didn't want the season to be a complete disaster. But what about the times where a bridge quarterback comes in and is not expected to be good, but then he shocks everyone and becomes one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL? In today's video, we'll be looking at these bridge type quarterbacks over the last 30 years or so that became late bloomers, if you will. They were either a bust, a journeyman, a backup, or a combination of those, and they found a way to become a star. For the record, there's a handful of guys I chose not to include in this video, and I'll put their names in the description with a brief explanation as to why. Okay, with that said, let's get...
Liz, are you in? Let's look at his description. Vinny Testaverde, Steve Young, Doug Flutie, Drew Brees, Matt Schwab. Okay.
Things started. First up, we have Dan Fouts.
This video already gets a like from me. I'm not gonna lie to you. Start off with the Chargers, the easy way to get a like. Amazing video. Matter of fact, phenomenal. That's how you spell phenomenal? I feel like that video's I already got it, bro.
5 years
I'll just make sure y'all know how to spell it.
Fouts, it was hard to imagine that he had many supporters left. The team had been one of the bottom dwellers throughout this time, and Fouts had been unimpressive, banged up, and expressed desires to leave the team after calling out the team head coach Tommy Prothero, saying that he was, quote, the furthest thing from a head coach you'll ever find. Well, the following season saw Prothero resign after a 1-3 start, and his replacement, Don Coryell, proved to be a massive hire. Recalling Coryell's first team talk, Fouts said, quote, I went home that day and had the biggest canary eating grin on. He talked about fun, passing, moving the ball, flying around the field, hitting people, all the things I wanted to hear. Going into that season, there was a perceived quarterback competition. Fouts' backup, James Harris, was traded to the team the previous year, and he believed he had a chance to be a starter. However, Fouts retained the starting job for the time being, and under Don Coryell, he started balling out. Fouts' numbers immediately improved. Then in 1979, in his 7th season, he became one of the best quarterbacks in football, going on to make his first Pro Bowl. Fouts led the league in passing yards 4 times in Coryell's innovative offense. And when his career was all said and done, Fouts became a Hall of Famer. That was something nobody would have seen coming after his first 5 or 6 years in the NFL. There's a quote from the current Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell about how organizations fail quarterbacks and not the other way around. And Fouts' career may be the perfect example of this, at least in terms of going from an incompetent head coach.
I've always agreed with this too. Quarterbacks like Josh Rosen, even Jared Goff at first. Jared Goff looked like he was doo-doo. He looked like he was ass. He gets around Sean McVay, amazing. Gets around Ben Johnson, even better. Justin Fields, the only thing about Justin Fields is that he's been in multiple systems, and he has yet to be like amazing. So I don't know about Fields. I feel like he might have just ran his course already. But I'm trying to think of a quarterback. Who was a quarterback that just had like one shot or one chance and then that was it? Sam Darnold's another one that revitalized his career with the fucking Vikings and then the Seahawks. I'm trying to think of a quarterback. Mac Jones, nah. Mac Jones ain't really doing shit with the Niners. He's just checking the ball down. There's no reason CMC should be leading y'all in fucking receiving yards and receiving fucking passes. Baker Mayfield's a great one. Baker's an amazing one. But it's just like, bro, you see, like, the Panthers had Baker being a scout team defensive lineman. Are you crazy? Like, that's the most disrespectful shit I've ever seen, by the way.
To a great one.
Case Keenum as well.
His results showed as he became a Hall of Famer.
Daniel Jones, another one.
Now, following Fouts, we have Chris Chandler.
Chandler looking end zone, touchdown, Tony Martin.
Chris Chandler was drafted in the 3rd round of the 1988 NFL draft. And despite starting most of his rookie season, he was traded after his 2nd year and proceeded to play for 5 teams in his first 9 seasons, serving mostly as a bridge quarterback and backup. Chandler was once again traded after 1996 to join his 6th team in 10 years, the Atlanta Falcons. And the Falcons had traded for Chandler because they couldn't afford a better quarterback in free agency. But luckily, they found lightning in a bottle. In his first season in Atlanta, Chandler went on to make his first Pro Bowl at the age of 32. Then the following year, he led the Falcons on a legendary run. The team finished 14-2, with Chandler making another Pro Bowl and leading the league in yards per pass attempt. Not only that, but Chandler led the team all the way to the Super Bowl before they were defeated by the Broncos. His head coach at the time praised Chandler, saying that he, quote, makes decisions while backpedaling the other quarterbacks can't make until they settle into the pocket. After 1998, Chandler and the Falcons came back down to earth. He played 3 more years in Atlanta, and they never made another playoff appearance. Chandler would finish his career bouncing around the league after playing for a total of 8 teams in 17 NFL seasons. Now, getting one of these types of quarterbacks who performs way better than expected is an incredible value considering the price point. It's kind of like making the switch to Mint Mobile, today's video sponsor. Also, Mint introduced the plan to sign up himself, plan AC's lowest price. Shout out to Rich Gannon.
Almost got me. He almost got me.
Gannon was a former 4th-round pick who spent his first 3 years as a backup who almost never played. Then, due to an injury, he became a serviceable starter in Minnesota, but nothing special. He proceeded to bounce around the league after his 6th season with the Vikings. He spent a year in Washington, then a year out of football with an injury, then 4 years as a backup and placeholder starter in Kansas City. After 1998, the 33-year-old signed a modest deal with the Raiders to serve as the team's bridge quarterback. That's when Gannon became a star. He made 4 straight Pro Bowls as Oakland developed into one of the best teams in the NFL. In 2000, Gannon was named first-team All-Pro and was an MVP candidate.
Gannon to the end zone to Rice.
Then in 2002, at the age of 37, he was the league MVP after leading the NFL in completions, attempts, yards, and passing success rate.
Is it true that you had all the video games taken out of the locker room because you felt it was a distraction?
Yeah, there's some truth to that.
He was able to lead Oakland all the way to the Super
I'll be damned, nigga, take away my console. Because we the Raiders and we losing. Fuck you, nigga. Fuck you. I mean, well, the Raiders wasn't losing at this point, but,
Super Bowl that season, before they were defeated by the Bucs. His performance began to fall off after that, and injuries ended his career. During Gannon's career renaissance, another quarterback burst onto the scene in movie-like fashion, and that, of course, was Kurt Warner. The story of Kurt Warner's football career was so incredible, they literally did make a movie about it. He began his pro career going undrafted in 1994, signing with the Packers, and getting
Nigga, that movie looks nothing like Kurt Warner.
He began his pro
That nigga looked chunky as hell.
career going undrafted in 1994, signing with the Packers, and getting released before the regular season
That
began.
looks nothing like him.
He spent a year bagging groceries at a grocery store, later playing arena football for a few seasons with the intention of trying to get back into the NFL. He got his first opportunity back, kinda, in 1997. The Rams had signed Warner, and he was sent to play in NFL Europe. Then he returned to St. Louis to be the team's third-string quarterback in 1998. In 1999, with the NFL expansion draft, each team had to allow 5 unprotected players that could be selected by the expansion Cleveland Browns, and Warner was one of these 5 unprotected players from the Rams. However, Cleveland made their first bad choice of many and passed up on him. That offseason, Warner was on schedule to be the third-string quarterback. However, due to a trade and an injury, Kurt Warner was thrust into the starting job. And at the age of 28, having never started a game in the NFL, Warner went on to lead the league in completion percentage, touchdowns, win NFL MVP, go on to win the Super Bowl, and he won that game's MVP.
Going deep downfield, adjusting for it is Isaac Bruce.
He
And
thought some
Isaac Bruce
bullshit.
threads his way for a touchdown.
The likelihood that this NFL story will ever be topped is borderline impossible. Warner went on to be the best quarterback in football for a few years, as the leader of the greatest show on turf. And after injuries and poor play led to the Rams moving on, Warner did eventually bounce back for a career renaissance, taking the Cardinals to a Super Bowl before losing to the Steelers in 2008. Warner later became a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Now, what about the guy Warner replaced back in 1999? Turns out, he was a bit of a late bloomer himself. His name was Trent Green, and Green began his career as a fringe practice squad guy. He was selected in the 8th round of the 1993 NFL Draft by the Chargers, and he was off their roster by 1994. In total, Green spent 5 years bouncing around pro football, even making a brief appearance on a CFL roster, which he was cut from, and somehow he still found his way back into the NFL, landing the Redskins' backup job. And at the age of 27, he finally attempted his first pass. An incompletion, which was the only pass he threw that year. Fast forward one season, and an injury thrust Green into the starting role for 14 games. And he did pretty solid with 23 touchdowns and 11 picks. This saved Green's career and landed him a 4-year, $17.5 million deal to become the Rams' new starter. But that's when he got hurt in the preseason, and Kurt Warner stepped in. And the rest is history. Green served as the backup to Warner and filled in for 5 games in 2000, putting up some monster numbers when he played. Once again, Green proved to be a valuable piece, and the Chiefs ended up sending a first-round pick to the Rams for him. A former player who was cut from the CFL had been traded for a first-round pick in the NFL. That's pretty wild. Green ended up becoming a top 10 quarterback in the NFL while in Kansas City. This included making 2 Pro Bowls during his seasons with the team. The biggest highlight of that era came in 2003 when the Chiefs started their season 9-0, and Priest Holmes set a then NFL record 27
Look at this nigga's leap.
rushing touchdowns.
God
Great
damn.
with the Chiefs
That
until
like
a
me whenever
serious
I be jumping and
concussion
shit.
to Green
That's how I'm diving on my plate Thanksgiving.
led to the end of that era. Overall, he played pro football until he was 38. In the same era, Jake Delhomme was an undrafted quarterback in 1997, spending his first NFL season on the same
Jake
practice.
Delhomme.
In fact, during that year, he was the backup to Kurt Warner over in NFL Europe. Delhomme ended up spending a few years in NFL Europe, eventually helping the Frankfurt Galaxy win the World Bowl in 1999. After his contract ended with the Saints, Delhomme signed with the Panthers in 2003, and he took over as the team's starter. At the age of 28, Delhomme took a team that had gone 1-15 the previous season and led them all the way to the Super Bowl. Delhomme put together a staggering 7 game-winning drives in the regular season and won in the postseason. Despite a heroic playoff run, the Panthers lost in the final minutes to the Patriots in the Super Bowl. Delhomme continued to have success with the Panthers. He finished 5th in touchdowns in 2004, and then he led the Panthers back to the NFC Championship in 2005 before losing to the Seahawks. Overall, the Delhomme years in Carolina saw some ups and downs, but they did make the playoffs 3 times in his first seasons with the team, and 2 of those were in the NFC Championship. Up next, we have the former #1 overall pick, Alex Smith.
I knew it.
This part of the field, but not this time. That's Kelsey.
After getting selected #1 overall, the early years for Alex Smith in San Francisco were brutal. For 5 seasons, the team sucked, and Smith struggled and was constantly banged up. For comparison, Aaron Rodgers, who was drafted after Smith in 2005, had won a Super Bowl by 2010, despite not starting for 3 years in Green Bay. Smith, on the other hand, was considered a bust, given that he and the team had been so bad for years.
Damn.
Well, everything changed when the team hired Jim Harbaugh. Overnight, this team looked dramatically better, and Smith looked like a competent NFL starter. They made a run all the way to the NFC title game before being bested by the Giants in an overtime thriller. The following year, they were on pace for an even better season, until Smith got injured, and Colin Kaepernick stepped in and led the team to a Super Bowl appearance. Smith was traded to Kansas City after that, and he became a great player under Andy Reid. He made 3 Pro Bowls in 5 years with them, helping them become a regular playoff team, before handing the reins off to Patrick Mahomes. However, the greatest thing Smith ever pulled off was coming back from that gruesome leg injury that nearly killed him in 2018 due to infection. Somehow he came back from that, and he went 5-1 as a starter for Washington in 2020 at the age of 36. Now we arrive to today with 4 current active quarterbacks who were bridge guys, and they became stars, and they all have slightly different stories. I'll run through them really quickly because I have talked about them in numerous videos. Geno Smith was seen as a bust and served mostly as a backup throughout his career.
That nigga went to the Raiders and became dog shit again.
Until his surprising 3-year run in Seattle, where he made his first of 2 Pro Bowls at the age of 32. But now he's struggling in Las Vegas. Baker Mayfield was good, but inconsistent and injured while in Cleveland. Then he got shipped out for pennies to Carolina, struggled, got released, saved his career with an improbable comeback in LA. Then at the age of 28, in his 6th season, Mayfield finally found a home, and he looks like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL currently. He probably doesn't qualify as a late bloomer due to his early success, but he has definitely matured and become a much better version of himself as of recently. Sam Darnold was seen as a bust in New York. After 3 rough seasons, he went to Carolina, where it was much of the same. Then after holding a clipboard for a year in San Francisco, Darnold became one of the biggest surprises in the NFL in his 7th season, leading the Minnesota Vikings to a 14-3 record and making his first Pro Bowl. After they let him go, Darnold now looks like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL with Seattle. He was ranked as the #1 quarterback by PFF through the halfway point of 2025. And lastly, we have Daniel Jones, our most recent example of this breakout bridge quarterback. His years in New York saw 1 good season and 5 mediocre to downright awful ones. People were pissed when they drafted him and were happy to see him get released mid-season in 2024. By all accounts, Daniel Jones was headed to a career as a veteran bridge, placeholder starter, and backup. Then in 2025, he was signed to compete with Anthony Richardson for the starting job with the Colts. The team had gone 8-9 in 2024 and had one of the worst passing games in the league. So far in 2025, they've had the best offense in the NFL. And Danny Dimes, or even better, Indiana Jones, led the league in passing yards through 9 games. He still has his flaws, especially with turnovers as of recently, but there's no denying his vast improvement over what he was doing in New York. So what's the big takeaway here? Well, as Kevin O'Connell said in the 2025 offseason, organizations fail quarterbacks and not the other way around. Quarterback is the most difficult and complex position in the game. And we've seen numerous examples of guys who get picked high and they fail. And these usually are on teams like the Browns, the Bears, the Jets, and these types of teams just regularly churn out quarterbacks like butter. The chaos in those buildings just bleeds out onto the field, and the quarterback, and usually other players, just don't succeed in those environments. However, as we've seen in this video, there's been plenty of times where a guy gets to his late 20s or maybe his early to mid 30s, and he develops a great feel for the game, regardless of how bad his career went in the beginning. So they're veterans by that point, and turns out if they're still in the NFL, they probably can play, given the chance. And if they have the right opportunity and the right coach, who knows what can happen. Looking back at that quote by O'Connell, it's kind of ironic that they had both Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones in the building last year, yet they let both
of them motherfuckers go.
Both of them walk, for understandable
for 9
reasons. But now, it doesn't look like a great decision. After winning 14 games last year, the 2025 Vikings season is all but over, in large part due to JJ McCarthy's poor performance.
Fucking nine.
Meanwhile, the Colts are the frontrunners in the AFC through 10 weeks, with the #1 offense. And the Seahawks have been better than expected, with Darnold throughout most of the season looking like an MVP candidate.
Charbonnet in the backfield. Darnold, here comes Diaby, downfield, caught, touchdown, Corey Horton.
That's a great video.